In this video, we're going to create a menu using HTML and CSS. For this class, I've created a web development folder, and I'm going to make a new folder for each of the projects that I do and save all files in it. So if we go into the menu folder I've created here, there's nothing currently in it. So we're going to do File New, and we're going to save this as index.html. So now I've got my HTML file living there, and we'll start another new file, and we're going to save this as style.css so that we have our style sheet, which is there. Now that I've got both of them, I can go ahead and close this. Next thing we're going to do is go back onto the index file and launch this page. Once that's launched, you can see it's blank. And just as a reference, and in case you have questions, if you go to the CSS practice page in Canvas and you scroll down, it will give you the code as an example for a menu. Here's the HTML, here's the CSS. The menu itself is not functional in Canvas because it won't allow it to be. So if you click this link up here on the project instructions, you can then see what it should look like. So here's the exact same page, but with the menu functioning. So this HTML and this CSS would create this menu with this rollover or hover state. So we're going to create that. And you need to do something similar, but go ahead and customize it and make it look like your own menu. So first thing we need here is a skeleton. You can either type it in or you can use the brackets extension. The HTML skeleton extension will do a full skeleton. And I'm going to take out this JavaScript piece because we don't need it. And then I need to connect to the style sheet so it reads it. So since it's in the same folder and it has the name of style.css, I'm going to type in style.css. It should now read that from that same folder. So next thing we'll do is we're going to go down here in the body and we're going to start typing in our list. And we'll go ahead and put in home, and I'm going to hit Control D and duplicate this a few times. And then we've got our about. In fact, let's take those out and do this in an even faster way. So we've got our home here. So if I go ahead and save this, you can see that it shows up with a bullet. It just says home, right? So keep on referencing this code. So the next part we're going to do is inside of that, we're going to add a link so that it actually acts as a link. So inside of there, we will then add an A tag, and we'll put the closing link or anchor tag at the close. So I'm going to cut that and paste it after this. So it should now act as a link. So if I save it and I look, you can see it doesn't do anything yet because there's nothing to it. But if we then go in and add the hypertext reference, the href, and we'll tell this to, if you had pages, you'd obviously link to them. This menu is not going to actually go anywhere. So if you just put in a hashtag, then it will function as a link. So that should work. So we'll go ahead and hit save. And I go back to this page and you can see it actually functions as a link, which I can click on, though it doesn't do anything yet. So we're then going to take that same link and we're going to hit Control D and duplicate it. And we're going to type in our other pages. And if we go ahead and save that and go check it out again, you'll see that we've got all 4 pages. They all act as links. Okay, we're done with the HTML. That's all we need to do there. So the next part is working with the CSS. So we'll go over to the CSS page, and the rules are a little different. We're first going to talk to the unordered list, so the whole entire list. So we'll come up here and we'll put in our selector, or the tag we're going to talk to, which is our unordered list. We'll put in curly brackets. We're going to split those apart, and we'll put all our rules between there. So first thing I want to do is get rid of these bullets that are here. So I'm going to put in list style type, and then I'm going to put in none. Okay, and if we hit save, you'll see that actually gets rid of those bullets. Next thing we're going to do is put in a background color. Let's put in antique white. Save that, and you can see the whole list now it's all living inside this big block of color. So that's all we're going to do for the list itself, for the whole list. So next we'll come down, and now we're going to talk to UL, LI. So we're going to talk to, you could just put list item, but if you had multiple lists, ordered and unordered, it would change all of the list items. So in this case, we're going to be specific. We're going to say any list items that live inside of an unordered list. And then we'll give the curly brackets, break those apart. We're going to say maroon, and we'll save that. You can see that changes it so the color is maroon. And then we will, in fact, let's turn this to tan. Actually, let's turn this to something very light, like a beige. Save that. Works a little better. Okay, so we've got colors maroon. And then we're going to do display inline. So most elements by default are block. They display block, meaning they stack up and down like a block. Like you can see those were stacking down like a block. If I break this, you can see they stack down like a block. But as soon as I tell them to display inline, like pictures do, they will display in a line, literally in a line. So that's looking a little bit more like a menu. Okay, next thing we want to do is add a margin, because they're pretty close. I'm going to kind of spread them out, push them apart. So let's say margin right, and let's do 18 pixels. That spreads them out a little bit. That looks fine. Okay, next part. We're going to come down here and we're going to talk to any link inside of a list item inside of an unordered list. So you can see we've got our link that lives inside of a list item inside of an unordered list, so that should work fine. So let's go back here and we'll go down to ULLIA, curly bracket, split it apart. Say maroon for the color again. Font size, we're going to give it an actual size. And we'll say 20 pixels. That's going to make it bigger. Let's go check that out. So now they're larger. And we'll do then text decoration. And that's for the underline. We're going to say none. You see that gets rid of the underline underneath it, which is great. Okay, last part, we're going to give it a hover state or a special effects state so that when your mouse touches it, it does something. It changes size, it adds an underline, it changes color, something like that. So we're going to talk to ULLIA. So any link in a list, in an unordered list, and then you put a semi or a colon and then hover. Make sure there's no space here between the colon and hover or the A. And put a space, you'll do your curly brackets, and you're going to say, maybe in this case, right, we could do color blue just as an example. So I changed the color. You can see as I hover over it, they actually turn blue, which looks good. You could also, instead of doing a color change or with a color change, we could say text decoration, and then let's say underline. So now when we actually hover over it, they have an underline as well. You could do something like that. And you could, there's a lot of things you could do. You could add shadows and things, but let me give you an idea of something not to do. If you put in font size, let's make it just a little bit bigger. When we do that, you'll notice every part of the menu flexes, which you don't want to happen. You only want to have a change happen on the menu item you're touching. So I would not end up doing that one. You can see there's extra room here. So if we added in the list, if we went in and did a text align, you could put in center and they'd all go in the center. You can do things like that. So feel free to customize this however you want. Just make sure you've got a list that works, and when you hover over it, it's functional. If you want to make this easier to turn in instead of turning in two files, you could take all of the CSS and you could cut it, and you can see it's no longer functional, it's not working. And you could go in between the two head tags and you could put in two style tags. And in between those two style tags, you can put anything in you would put in a style sheet. So if I paste that all inside of those two style tags, you can see the same menu works in the exact same way. And then you could just turn in the index file, which is fine. If you want to turn in both files, make sure you put them in the same folder like they currently are. And then you take that file, you right click on it, and you send it to a zipped folder, and then you'll turn that in. So either one of those will work.